And welcome back to Saga Online Press presents The Sessions, Creating a Character, Series 1, Part 3 or 4. And actually, the series is Creating a Character, and other series will be called something else. But this is the creation of a character who's going to be a main character in the third book in the rotation of four different books on Saga Online Press. This is a story of the government makes their own superheroes, and they are tech heroes like Iron Man type heroes with technological advancements and weaponry to simulate superpowers. With a twist, you'll see a big reveal down the line. First things first, this is not a tutorial video. This is not a how-to video. This is a behind-the-scenes video of how this one guy, me, uses Photoshop to make webcomics. I don't want people to get the idea that this is instruction. I'm probably making a lot of mistakes, and what I'm hoping for is, besides just general people taking interest in what I'm doing, but also fellow artists and teachers and whatnot, to maybe come on the message boards and say, look, this is what you did there wasn't quite right. You could totally do it this way. It'd be easier, it'd be better, and we could have a cool conversation on YouTube or even on my site about how to do some of these different things. I would get a total kick if a teacher used some of these videos as material in their classrooms for like what not to do. I mean, heck, there are worse ways to be a cautionary tale, you know what I mean, like than being a not so great craftsman at art. Like, I'll take it. Last session or last part 2 talked about using the opacity from layer to layer, and I love the opacity option on Photoshop. It allows me to see what I did before and use it as a measuring stick, and that's going to actually come into play right here. I'm about to get into far more detail on the character's face. Now, again, what I'm seeing when I use my Photoshop is not what you're seeing here. This is the result of my computer, my tablet, my Fujitsu tablet, not quite being able to run the VPN software and run Photoshop at the exact same time. I'm pretty sure I'm having an issue with settings, and I'll get that worked out in the future. But when I'm working and I'm looking at this live, it does not look this jerky. It doesn't. But that might actually be helpful. That might help me explain how things are going at a rate that's useful. I hope you noticed just now that the end of my character's actual nose that was drawn is not the same as the breakdown beneath it. And what that's about is what I was saying earlier about using mistakes and leaving them there in Photoshop as a signpost of where you want to eventually be, because you're not so committed to this final image in your mind that you can't make alterations as you go. And that's what I mean. Like, if I would have drawn the nose to the specs of the earlier breakdown, his nose would have been huge and his face would have been elongated. In a pencil drawing, I would have had to have corrected the breakdown to avoid that pitfall. But in Photoshop, because of how I get to see the work as it develops, I don't have to. Just keep on going and make the changes I know I need to make as I go. This next section is going to be about how, or is going to show you how I take advantage of years of drawing without instruction. I was a horrible artist for longer than I've been an okay artist. And I actually learned to draw fast when I couldn't draw very well. And I would say that I'm learning to draw fast so that when someone teaches me to actually draw, I can do it really fast. And with pencil and paper, it's true, I can. Photoshop, not so much. It's just I can't go that fast. Photoshop doesn't let you. There's just so much stuff you can do that to hurry would do yourself a disservice. However, there are some things I picked up. Like you see the edges of that faceplate on the side of his head. Well, that's what I consider a found observation. That wasn't something I had planned on. But I saw it there as it developed and said, well, I might as well just use it. And that is what I learned from drawing all by myself with no instruction for so long, was I would do stuff by accident that looked kind of cool and would just keep it. And so I developed not having any shame for that as an artist, and being totally cool with saying, hey, I did that. Wasn't on purpose, but it's there. You take that. You enjoy that. You enjoy how awesome that looks. And so it just helped me in little things like that. And the fact that Photoshop helped me get away from trying to be so precise and exact. Like, one thing I love about Photoshop is I can draw so much more freely because there's no restriction in resistance. Like, drawing with the stylus pen is like drawing with an ink pen on paper, which feels so smooth, for lack of a better term, but it's so hard with pencil and paper, pen and paper, because you can't erase, you can't go back. I get all the smoothness and freedom of drawing with a ballpoint pen on paper, and I can erase that bad boy like whenever I want to. And I'm going to erase more now as these are more final lines, because now it's starting to get to the point where the line work really does matter. So you'll see me go back and like erase a little extra line here or there to make it look nicer. Um, at this point, though, even though you see he has facial features now, eyes, nose, lips, and all that stuff, the beauty of Photoshop is I'm going to step back and look at this again and decide if I want to add another layer, reduce my opacity, and take another pass at it. Um, that is something I would typically do if this was supposed to be a panel in a comic and I need it to look that good. But since this is a conceptual drawing, I might just decide that, okay, I see what I want and I'm going to move on because I get to see what I want, and I'm going to be able to take this drawing as reference as I work on more mock-ups of this particular character. Um, I don't know, like it's fun to create, but for there was a time when I was just kind of overdrawing. I don't mean over like too much of it. I mean I just didn't feel like drawing anymore, and I was focusing on my writing. I was writing for CreativeOnline.com and doing some other freelance work, and I just didn't want to draw anymore. I thought that there was just no point. I was never going to be a comic book artist. I was going to end up being this hack writer for the rest of my life, and that would just be it. And I was just kind of giving in to that idea. And then things went differently for me for Crave, and freelance work was there, but freelance work for the internet isn't like freelance work for print media. The free and freelance for internet work means free, so they don't want to pay you. And as time went on, I read more articles by my contemporaries. My thought was, why should they? What we do is, well, BS, basically. I'm talking about how cool a comic book movie is, and quite frankly, I shouldn't get paid for that. And when I came to that conclusion, it was kind of a catch-22. Like, I need to feed myself, and I've dedicated a good deal of my life to doing this as a trade, and now there's no money in it. So I kind of want you to pay me, but deep down I can kind of see why you don't. So it's like, oh man. So I decided to just get back to work, and go back to being an artist, and letting that define my life again, is being an artist. So, I learned Photoshop and started messing with this Fujitsu tablet a friend of mine sold me for a couple $100. And there you go, and the rest is history. So, designed my own website and launched that bad boy with some motion comics and some web comics and some daily comics. And now I got the Blurred King podcast, which is on sagaonlinepress.squarespace.com. You can RSS feed that and listen to me rant and rave. There's a foul language in that bad boy, so just so you know, there's no cursing here on YouTube, but there is cursing on the Blur King podcast. Right now, I'm still playing with the various shapes and finalizing some of the different aspects of just a physical form. The character's facial expressions are kind of placeholder at this point. What I'm looking at as a character designer is the tech. Um, I want to make something that looks like it would harness energy, but also conform to movement. That whole neck head thing has to look like he can turn and have full range of motion so that he could be physical. Um, I thought the Iron Man armor in the Iron Man films was amazing in that it kept the persistent idea that Tony could still be flexible and limber as if he wasn't wearing armor. I thought that was very important, especially as the armor became more sophisticated in later films. So that's always something important to me as far as drawing technology. I came out of comic books in the 90s where you had a lot of, ooh, this looks cool. He has 70,000 pouches and armor pads and shoulder pads, and how does he go to the bathroom in that stuff? He looks like a character I'm gonna get you sucker. Like, how's he gonna go to the bathroom in that? I can defeat that guy if I just keep pumping him full of water. Like, it's just stupid after a while. There was just no functionality in anything except for like Spider-Man and Batman. And even Batman went through a phase where John Paul Valley is looking like the Predator. I mean, it's just everyone wants to draw the most complex, foolhardy looking get up to put a superhero in. It was embarrassing. But now we're kind of easing back to functional costuming, and I kind of want to be able to be a part of that more functional artistic effort. Um, the face, I like that face. I guess I do. I try to emulate my favorite artists, not in their entirety, but what I think they do the best, and I want to get better at it. And one of the things where I really, really want to improve more than anything is the eyes. Right now, I'm kind of mimicking to a very, very basic degree the Kubert father, the original, who drew Tarzan. I saw some Tarzan comics, and I got a chance to get some JPEGs of Tarzan covers, and I just loved how he did eyes. And so I tried to, on a very basic level, do that while keeping a unique shape of my own desire. But the more and more I look at it, the more and more I want to do more of Joe Kubert's eyes, only because of how well he did it. But the problem is, I don't do the Kubert nose, I don't do the Kubert mouth, and the jaws and chins are not the same. And if I do his eyes all by themselves, I don't think it'll look right. But I'll play with that. You'll see that as I draw the 4 different books, they are going to look different as well artistically. Not completely different, but there will be differences between one book and the next. Even though it's the same artist, I want to be able to show off a certain degree of versatility while you can still kind of tell that that's me. I'm the one doing the drawing. This book is going to be shorter than the first issue of Atomic was on the site. I was looking up lengths of web comics, and they're average about 12 pages, and so I'm doing 20 right now. But that's a lot of work for one guy who's also podcasting and mixing and recording audio for the podcast and recording audio for the Photoshop sessions, and then drawing the Photoshop sessions, which are also part of the comic book drawings. And then I got something else cooking for 3D animated YouTube, something or other I can't really talk about yet. But so just for the labor I want to put into it, I'm going to have to scale back some of the work I've been doing. But them's the breaks. So we're wrapping up. Got 10 more seconds for session 3, and then the final session's coming up in a moment. So we'll talk more. See you then.